I'm going to turn this into kind of obviously the club that I support is Dortmund. I'm going to turn this into kind of a weekly Dortmund review slash other big games that I watched around the top five leagues. Being able to keep up with all the big games every single weekend is becoming a bit of a grind, we'll say. And sometimes don't have time for it, and I want to continue to give you guys content. So, with that said, we'll start with the Dortmund game. We looked not good. Dahoud, harsh red card, but even before that, we weren't playing well. I don't think. Right, injuries to Haaland and Royce obviously made a big difference, but we went with basically a 5-3-2 essentially, and it didn't really 5-3-2, 3-5-2. It didn't really suit us. Lukoko, he's so young, right? He's 16. He's getting minutes. It's phenomenal. I was not doing that when I was 16. But he looks a little bit out of his depth at times. And in a game against Mönchengladbach where we need a result, you look at our bench, we don't really have that deep of a squad. I think we only had I don't know. The quality on the bench just isn't there in terms of first team quality of players. We need to bring in some more depth. I don't know. Pongracic looked good, I think. Hummel's sloppy. Dahoud, again, getting sent off. Harsh, definitely, but he's got to know that he's on a yellow. He has that reaction to the call. Gets his second yellow, gets sent off. Guerrero, not great. Witzel is okay. Kobel was good. I think two bright spots for me out of the game were Bellingham and the fact that we only conceded once. We played more than a half a man down. We only conceded one goal. We didn't concede after we went a man down, and the goal that we conceded was a lucky deflection. And Mönchengladbach didn't really have that many other good chances, I would say. They looked decent, Mönchengladbach did, but again, I would say it's more of a function of us playing poorly than them playing well. Leverkusen absolutely killed them, and we dropped 4 on Leverkusen. So it's one of those things. Yeah, hopefully we can bounce back. Got the game when I'm recording this, the game tomorrow against Sporting, who got absolutely annihilated by Ajax. I think it was like 5-1 or something in the first group stage game. So hopefully we can pick up a result there. I think Haaland and Royce might be back. I think they're iffy on that one. All right, moving on. Enough sadness with Dortmund. Moving on. So Leipzig 6-0 winners out at Hertha. Good for them. Moving into the Champions League clash, I think they're playing Club Brugge. It's a good momentum swing for them. And Nkunku again getting on the score sheet. He's looked with a brace actually, so he's been good for them. I think they'll start to pick up the form now under Jesse Marsch. They had a rough start, but I think they'll be much improved going forward. Bayern 3-1 winners out at Greuther Fürth, I'm pretty sure is how it's pronounced. Game you'd expect them to win. Looked fairly comfortable. After that draw to Mönchengladbach at the first game of the season, they've looked pretty much unstoppable. And then the other big games that I caught were in the Premier League. I caught so one thing that was interesting though, Brighton, if they'd won today at the time of recording, they would have gone top of the table. But aside from the table in the Premier League is 1 through 6. So Liverpool has 14, and then 2 through 6 all have 13 points. Super competitive. I mentioned this in one of the other roundups. I think this is shaping up to be one of the most competitive seasons in the Premier League in some time. So that's exciting. Hopefully it stays that way come the end of the season and we get some surprises and it'll make for some entertaining football. But the two games I caught really were the City-Chelsea game and the Arsenal-Spurs game. The City-Chelsea game, Chelsea didn't look great. Not gonna lie, I think that's a function of City being at their best, and kind of we know that's how they can play. They controlled the game, I think, for the most part. The goal was a bit lucky with the deflection, but overall, if you look at the game, right, 15 shots to 5, 4 on target to 0, 60% of the ball, 59. And I think I feel like the stereotype of City is that they're good going forward, not great at the back, but I think they've only conceded once this entire season in the Premier League. So let me just double check that so I don't sound like an idiot. Yeah, only conceded one time in 6 games, and they've played good teams. They played Chelsea, obviously, and a couple of other big teams. So defensively, what more can you say? The quality in that team is just unreal. Chelsea will be fine. They'll bounce back. I think they've got more than enough quality to bounce back, and I expect to see them do well in the Champions League and then at next weekend. The Arsenal-Spurs game. Arsenal looked really good for the first half. Not as good in the second half. I think some of that was down to Spurs didn't look great and Arsenal were really sharp. It's kind of a compounding. Arsenal at their best, Spurs at their worst, and that's kind of the result you get in the first 35 minutes, 3-0. Kane didn't look great. Dele Alli, I don't know what he's doing, man. Like, I want him to do well. Like, you hope for him to do well, right, with the spell in the Mourinho where he didn't play, and I think in the documentary All or Nothing with Tottenham, Mourinho's calling him lazy and all sorts, and you want him to do well, but then you see him play like this and it just looks like he's not very interested, which sucks because he's a super talented player, and obviously you want everybody to do well and to succeed. So I hope he turns it around, but from an Arsenal perspective, I think we got a glimpse of the future, hopefully, right? I'll say a glimpse of the future with the dampened reality that Spurs didn't play that well. But if you put the pieces together, right, with this team, Ramsdale, I think U23, Tomiyasu, I think is 22 or 23, Ben White the same, Gabriel the same, Kieran Tierney, I think is 24, Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Saka, all super young. So if they can keep hold of them, Thomas Partey even is not old really either. But if they can keep hold of all these players, right, and then Granit Xhaka would come in the future, would be replaced by Lokonga, given who they have now. And then if they just get another number 9, whether it's like Nketiah develops or they buy somebody else, you're looking at a really good team in the next probably 3 to 4 years. But again, that's if they keep everybody. So we'll see how that works out. I don't know. Hopefully, like, you can kind of tell, and I mentioned this earlier in another weekend roundup as well. It's almost like Arteta is kind of playing. He's playing like a road to glory career mode, which is kind of wacky to say with a team like Arsenal. But he's basically just bought a bunch of young players that might not be the best now, but have potential. And this is the result you get when they put the pieces together. You're going to get bad results like they did earlier in the season because they're young and inexperienced, and that's kind of what happens. The consistency is not there, and that's the most important thing, right? That's what separates the top teams from the chasing pack, really. Like those top 2 to 3 teams, or well, I guess 4 this year in the Prem, from 6 to 10 or 5 to 10. That's what's going to separate them is the consistency, because both of these teams on their day, like Tottenham scored the only goal on City this season and handed City their only loss of the season. So on their day, they can play with them, but then they turn around and then they have a stinker, and so that's what the difference is. So we'll see. But yeah, both these teams on their day can give other teams trouble. But it was good to see Saka scoring, Smith Rowe scoring. And I wish them all the best. Honestly, I know they've had turmoil in recent years, but looking forward, I think the future is bright. And I would say yeah, looking forward to kind of what happens. With that said, it's good to be back on the channel. I know we took last weekend off, didn't have enough time to watch the games and stuff. But yeah, we will see you guys next